Educating students on appropriate use of AI for learning. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to describe ways that AI abuse can prevent learning and help students understand the risks that AI can pose to their education. In the presentation, we will talk about choices that we all face with AI, students' need for guidance, the importance of friction in learning, and some cognitive psychology principles of learning. The fact is, AI is becoming a bigger presence in our lives every day, whether we want it or not. We might open a Word document or something, and a window could pop up that says, describe what you'd like to write, including notes or an outline, and Copilot can generate a draft to help you get started. And so our students might be doing their work and have AI just popping up and offering to do the writing for them, whether they want it or not. There's a great article that says ChatGPT is at odds with what education is for. It's counter to education. And in the article by Jane Rosenzweig, we see that she mentions that Mira Murati announced that OpenAI will soon offer GPT 4.0, which has already come out, of course, which includes voice chat for free. We're always trying to find ways to reduce friction, Murati said, so that everyone can use ChatGPT wherever they are. Well, ChatGPT can easily summarize and analyze articles. It can do many great things, but that does not stop Professor Rosenzweig from assigning summary and analysis for her students to do on their own without AI assistance. She says that she doesn't assign summary and analysis because she needs more summaries or analyses. She assigns these projects because she wants to help her students think through complex ideas and grapple with them. And she doesn't ask her students to write papers because the world needs more student papers. She assigns papers because she wants her students to go through the process of figuring out what they think. The friction is the point. So you see, as these artificial intelligence companies are making their technology more and more accessible and available to us, they are creating these temptations for us to do things very easily and lose that friction and lose these opportunities to understand what we think and to learn. Students need opportunities to experiment, to learn to think for themselves, to follow their curiosity, and to make mistakes. And so as teachers, we need to help our students understand the risks and to understand how to deal with them. And it is our job to help. It's unreasonable, she says, to think that students will choose to use a chatbot only at moments when it would be an effective learning tool. And we shouldn't expect them to know how to make such decisions. So we need to help them understand these choices and possibilities. So I like to think of it as with great possibility comes great responsibility. And in this image here, we see that in a way, artificial intelligence is kind of like this fantastic tool. And it can support language learning. It can do all kinds of great things. But of course, there are risks. Just like with a tool in the picture we see here, we could cut ourselves, we could hurt ourselves, or we could use it effectively to accomplish tasks better. So these are the things we need to consider. Students need guidance in how to use these tools effectively. And of course, we can help. So the first thing we might want to do in order to help our students is to first understand them. We want to learn about their experience with AI. So before we bring AI into the classroom ourselves, maybe find out students' current knowledge of it and their practices with it. And we want to avoid criminalizing use of AI. We don't want to say, oh, it's all bad, or are you doing this? I'm mad at you if you did. No, we want to avoid indicating if you have a strong opinion about it at first. That's my advice anyway. Instead, see what you can learn. Find out maybe are the students experimenting with it? For what purposes? In what ways is it useful to them? And maybe to help students feel more comfortable sharing this information, you might want to use an anonymous survey. The important thing is we want to find out where our students are, what they're doing, and see how we can help them from that point. Then together we can explore principles of how we learn. It's great for teachers to remember this, and it's especially important right now for students to understand this as well. And for me, when I think about these essentials, I like to think about cognitive psychology. There's a great book called Make It Stick, and I found that very inspiring, and I will share some portions of this book with you as some food for thought. Now, the book talks about principles of cognitive psychology, and there are 4 big ones that it goes into. The first one is retrieval practice. And this is that we can learn things by practicing remembering things without looking. So maybe we have something in the book and we look at it in the book, but then we close the book and we try to remember it without looking at the book. Another important idea for cognitive psychology and learning is spaced practice. And that's the idea that we study a little bit every day instead of trying to study everything all at once. So if we only study on the night before a test, maybe we do okay on the test, but we don't really do very well as far as actually remembering things for the rest of our lives. Elaboration, using our own words to explain ideas and make connections, is another important part of learning. Now notice it's our own words that we have to use. We have to explain them. We have to make the connections. And the last principle I want to share is interleaving, this practice of mixing multiple subjects or topics while studying in order to improve learning. Now you might think that maybe I want to learn about Picasso and I should study Picasso, and maybe I want to learn about another artist and I'll study that artist on a different day. But interleaving says, no, we should study Picasso and the other artist and mix them up. And as we do that, well, it's harder to do that, to learn that way, but we learn better. And that's kind of the theme here. If we look at these 4 principles, they involve making things a little bit harder in the learning process, but then the learning actually lasts. It's actually worth something to us in the future. Now, the way they say this in the book about retrieval, they say practice at retrieving new knowledge or skill from memory is a potent tool for learning and durable retention. This is true for anything the brain is asked to remember and call up again in the future. Facts, complex concepts, problem-solving techniques, motor skills. So again, there's some work involved in calling it back, but it seems to help in learning quite a bit. Another thing about how to learn, they say simply including one test in a class yields a large improvement in final exam scores, and gains continue to increase as the frequency of classroom testing increases. In other words, when we have more tests in a class, students learn more. Why? Well, effort matters. See, we are easily tricked into believing that learning is better when it's easier, but the research shows the opposite. When the mind has to work, learning sticks better. And so I hope you can see the connection here to artificial intelligence, which is making our lives easier. It's taking friction away. And as it takes friction away, perhaps it's taking our learning away. As it reduces our need for effort, it reduces our opportunities to learn. So we need to help students learn to use AI to support learning, not to kill learning. So we might teach them that they can use AI to generate their own lessons and their own quizzes on things that they decide that they need help with. We can also help students work with AI tutors. But if we do want students to work with an AI tutor, we need to make sure that we are creating a good tutor that gives the student an opportunity to work rather than making everything too easy for the student, right? So there's this example of maybe a student wants feedback on their paragraph and they say, please check my paragraph and tell me if the grammar is correct. Here's my paragraph. And then maybe the response it gets is, here's a revised version, where artificial intelligence has simply rewritten everything and the student has had no effort necessary and probably no learning. This is not what we want. So instead, when we are asking AI to help a student to learn something or to get feedback on their writing or something like that, we want to write a prompt differently. And this is something we can share with our students to help them learn to use AI to support their learning. For instance, if we want a tutor to help students with their writing, we might say something like, you're an expert Socratic writing tutor. And the idea here is that you're a tutor who asks questions rather than giving answers. You're an expert Socratic writing tutor. A good writing tutor does not rewrite a student's work. This is all part of the prompt that we say to artificial intelligence. We'll put this in the instructions. Point out areas where the writing is not clear. Do not correct the writer's grammar. Instead, point out areas and ask, can you improve that part? Now, I don't know if this is a perfect prompt, and we'll get different results every time with different platforms and all that kind of thing. But these are some things that we can think about as we're trying to write a good prompt. And there's more. To be very, very clear, we might add, never provide rewrites of the student's work. Only the student can make rewrites. The tutor simply points out areas for possible improvement. Now, we can also seek other ways to use AI to facilitate learning and not replace learning. For instance, think about brainstorming. Many people say that artificial intelligence is great for brainstorming. You can simply say, I need ideas for this, and it will tell you those ideas. But I tend to disagree. I tend to think that brainstorming is also an important part of the learning process. It's a part of us thinking about what we already know, expressing our creativity and our humanity. And I really don't particularly like the idea of just giving that over to computer programs and things like that. So if I ask ChatGPT for ideas, it will give them to me. But my question is, should it? Now, look at this example. I could simply say, if I were a student, I could say, I need ideas for a paper about the advantages of computers. I'm brainstorming, right? And look what I get. Wow, education with an outline, business with an outline, and it goes on and on instantly. And I didn't need to work my brain at all. I just got a bunch of ideas handed to me. Maybe it's not very exciting to me because they're not my ideas, and I haven't explored my own opinions about things. I haven't maybe written some notes myself to decide what my opinions, what my thoughts on this are. So I feel like this is not a good idea. But there are ways to use artificial intelligence with brainstorming that might be better for learning. Instead of asking for answers, perhaps we can ask for questions. And for this, I'd like to share Debate Devil. And so if you look at this example here, Debate Devil, it's debate-devil.com. And it's a website that is using AI to help students practice their debating skills. And there are different modes: Devil mode, Socrates mode, warm and fuzzy mode. And I like the Socrates mode because that's the one where it's going to ask lots of questions. So here's an example. Maybe I begin working with it and it says, through Socratic dialogue, we support you in reaching a deeper understanding. What topic or idea would you like to start with? So the AI is asking me this question. And so if I'm a student and I need help with my writing assignments, I might say, I need ideas for a paper about online instruction. Now, remember, ChatGPT just gave me a ton of ideas right away. Debate Devil's a little different. It's asking me questions. It says, that's a great topic. What are your initial thoughts or opinions about online instruction that you would like to explore in your paper? So it's putting it back to me. I have to think. I have to figure out my priorities or my opinions a little bit and share that. And so let's just to test it out, I'm giving a kind of lazy answer here as a maybe lazy student. I don't know. And I only say, I think it's convenient but boring. But what I like here is the Debate Devil still doesn't really hand me answers. It says, you bring up an interesting point. Let's delve deeper into this perspective. Why do you find online instruction convenient but boring? What aspects of online instruction do you believe contribute to this feeling? So it's asking me questions, asking me to dig deeper into my own ideas. So it's like talking to a friend who is not going to do my homework for me, but who might help me continue down the path so that I can get it done myself. So the idea here is we're not criminalizing the use of AI. We're not saying never use it or it's always bad. We're exploring it together with students to see how we can do it responsibly, to take this powerful new tool and do things that will not hurt us, but will actually help us. Of course, sometimes students may use AI dishonestly, and then, well, we've got a problem and we need to decide what to do about that. Well, that's a topic for another presentation. But for now, I hope that you feel comfortable describing ways that AI abuse can prevent learning, and I hope you are ready to help students understand the risks that AI can pose to their education.